Well, despite a 50,000-word piece in Politico kind of nailing the Hezbollah story, a story with major implications, no one's really paid attention in the press. Was it reprinted on the front page of the New York Times? No. Are they talking about it on other morning shows? No. Why is that? Joe Concha pays close attention to the media. He writes about it for The Hill. He joins us tonight. Joe, this seems like, far be it for me to tout anything Politico does. I'm not a fan. But this piece seemed like something that was hard to ignore, and yet it's being ignored. Why is that?
Well, usually in these cases, it's looked as, when a story isn't reported, oh, it comes from a right-wing outlet, and therefore we're going to dismiss it. As you said, Politico is not exactly a sentiment of, or a bastion of conservative sentiment. So that's
right.
out. Then we look at this as being a 14,000-word piece that this reporter, Josh Meyer, worked on for months. And Obama administration officials, the ones pushing back on this now, loyalists, all were asked to comment on the story, and they wouldn't before the publication. They pushed back on it afterwards. They can't cite specific facts that are wrong with it, just the overall thrust. So certainly that's one thing. And look, if we played a game of PU, okay, parallel universe, an appropriate acronym, and you took out President Obama and Hezbollah, and you inserted President Trump and Russia, how much coverage do you think this would get? I'm guessing you would need 30 hours in your broadcast day just to cover this. But instead, ABC, CBS, NBC, the nightly newscast, and that's the best gauge to use in these situations in terms of coverage, all did not cover this story. It demands to be covered more, digged into more, since both sides are disputing it. But there's certainly a lot here based on how meticulous this reporter was, which, by the way, he had, as you noted before, not the unnamed sources that could be political operatives with an agenda, and it could be hearsay. He had named sources on the record, documents on the record, things we did not see, say, with the Brian Ross report when he said that President Trump had ordered Michael Flynn to talk to the Russians during the campaign, when in fact that happened during the transition. That was based on one flimsy source, no checks and balances, and rushed to the air.
Do you think part of it has to do with the fact this was also a drug story? And the people dying of drug ODs and drug addiction in this country, more than 60,000 of them last year, are mostly in the middle of the country. That's not happening in the neighborhoods that media people live in. That story is, it's actually lowered life expectancy for Middle America. How often is that even covered?
Middle America,
in the press?
New Hampshire, New Jersey, where I live, the opioid crisis, the drug crisis that's happened in this country is vastly underreported as well, because, again, it ain't sexy. It's not sexy, just like the economy isn't sexy, just like the ISIS caliphate being destroyed isn't sexy, just like all of these things, tax reform isn't sexy. Instead, we concentrate on Russia. There are 3 investigations going on. I'm not saying don't cover it. I'm not saying there isn't a story there, but we are overwhelmed in one direction, and we're missing the important stuff.
Yeah, that Americans are dying, that seems like a big deal to me. Joe, thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Democrats claim to be the party of a downtrodden working class, but their priorities increasingly seem focused on displacing the working class with immigrants. We'll ask a former Democratic governor, what is the party's future? That's next.